they've got another split under their belts.
Oh!
Into picks and bans. It's a different overlay, but importantly, we have champions on screen.
And we get to talk about the big thing.
So let's talk about them. Yes.
Yeah, that I'd love to bring up here, which is that Stefan modification for Nativz does mean that I feel they play less of a Fortress style than Verdants do. They love the sound of Chancellor just like burst into like
yes.
they love to play heavy pressure lanes that Stefan can invade jungle off of, right? The Kindred Giga plays that you're seeing banned out here are only enabled if your laners are able to win 2v2, able to win 1v1, able to get the push in. I love Azir towards Nico. That's one of the best kind of matchups that you can have because the Azir is able to outrange Nico early and has decent disengage on 6, but crucially he's going to have good pressure and Stefan wants to be able to play off of that. So Nativz, they like to play forward, right? And Verdant, they're happy to absorb some pressure, come in last on objectives, and that smite bot that they have in the jungle there, that's when he starts to really shine. Yeah, maybe you get the objective secure, but let's be real, I'm going to be the one to execute it.
Yeah, and we've got arguably our best mid and AD carries in terms of their ability to just output teamfight DPS here in this game too. Vladdy, Denvox, named Niter, and Gooby. But I am just looking at this Verdant draft, and I'm seeing the ability to just target the Azir, target the Aphelios with the Nautilus, with the Vi, with the Nico, and just try and delete them off the face of the earth, dude.
Veteran's seen something. I think if we don't let him go, he'll explode.
All right, you know what? Yeah, that's fair. You know what, Rudy? I'll come back. I'm sorry. I'm looking at Veteran's face. I think he might explode if we don't let him go. What have you got?
So one thing is that if they're going to put Nilla on Fortress, you don't care about the Poppy ban, but if you're going to ban Poppy, that indicates to me that Nilla could be on something like Camille, could be on something like the Jax. We could actually get that split pusher, and it looks like they're going to give him last pick as well. They want to counter pick on top.
Varus, you can leave the Nautilus to roam, so that's going to be locked in, and it's counter pick for Nilla. I think Veteran's onto something, Rude, dude.
There's I'm going to call it like a 2% chance that this is also a flex pick.
I know,
Varus.
that's fair. That's actually a fair call.
It has to be addressed
Interesting.
because typically you want to go for... Typically we're going to see Shikari play a tank stable top laner that you can play to the weak side to. And Ornn is a perfect example. Varus can be played into tank tops with the Shiv, with full AP, and you can murder them in laning phase. And I mean physically, like actually solo kills are very much on the cards. This is something that if Nilo wanted to take to the top lane, it wouldn't shock me.
I've seen it in solo queue.
He's probably got something else up his sleeve. The Camille looks okay. There's plenty of things there.
No, don't be boring, do Jax. Don't be boring.
Okay. I mean, there is still a world where the Cassante gets flexed mid or something silly like that. But no, it's not going to happen. It's going to be the Cassante top. We were set up for something a little bit interesting. You could see that was what the draft had allowed to happen. Instead, they go towards that very potent pick, the Showmaker. Copy pasta comes back to haunt us once more. But we have, in the end, got two relatively 5v5 comps with slight differences. The Nocturne can kind of try and pull a Vi by pressing R and diving towards the backline, much like the Vi can. But it's probably a little bit more pick on the side of Verdant and a little bit more front to back on the side of Nativz. Is that fair to say, Rude Dude?
Yeah, the key differences here look to be just your Lulu versus Nautilus and the two things that they're going to offer you. Obviously, you've got just that bit more dive. I do like that we've got Ornn Nocturne as a pairing, even though Ornn doesn't traditionally as easily get himself into the backline as a Nocturne. I call the Forge God is a very good dive tool that you can play with as a Nocturne to have some setup and make sure that whoever you're targeting gets taken down.
I think the Nocturne's...
egalitarian fashion, let's follow over on the other side. What have you got in terms of... Richie, if you're going to talk about the Nocturne, you sound like you've got something you really want to push on that one.
I just wanted to add, I think the position of the Nocturne in draft was actually to deny the Jax, to deny the Camille, to deny these matchups that are difficult for the Ornn. Cassante is very difficult for Ornn as well, but you're not going to play a split push composition if the enemy has the Nocturne. So I think the Nocturne's job is kind of done already by forcing the Cassante pick out. And now if the enemy does try to do a 4-1 or 1-3-1 at any point, the Nocturne will still be useful. It's just less valuable into this comp, but in doing so, it's done its job. We don't want to be against Nilla on a grass champ where he's just going to press Q off cooldown and try to take over the game that way.
Yeah, and you kind of called it out in that draft, right, that there was that the bans had been set up to allow for the Nilla counter pick, and it was a solid response to try and make that a harder choice to make. I guess then, Rude Dude, with the competition they've ended up, which is a little bit more CC one target and blow them up, preferably one of the carries, have they got enough in the tank to make it happen? Because you go too deep and Azir knocks you back and suddenly you're in no man's land and the Azir and Aphelios are just free firing at you.
But it is all on that Shurima shot or on the wall, I think, from the Azir. If Azir is the one that they're CCing and taking down, I'm quite convinced that they've got the tools in the back pocket to pull it off. Just whenever you have a Vi, you're going to look good to lock up one target. If Cassante can get in there as well, Nico. The dive pairings definitely there on the side of Verdant. My concern again stems back to the Nocturne, and I think a secondary use here. Typically, you see Nocturne as this dive champion, but he also has a really good propensity to disrupt other teams' engages. So when you see a Nautilus, for example, use their ulti to come out, just turn off the lights, you don't know, and the enemy team doesn't know
it's
what's going on.
Trick.
Exactly, and it relies very heavily on good communication from the enemies to be able to say, okay, we're going regardless of lights off, we just need to make something happen. And even if the Nocturne ulti doesn't have that exact effect, you can then engage onto the backline, who are going to be very exposed.
Okay, so we've heard a little bit about how both these comps kind of roughly want to make it work. Veteran, is there any particular player you're going, I think you're likely going to be key to how this game plays out, for good or ill on either side?
I still think it's going to be the top side matchup, right? I actually think the Cassante... I mean, the Cassante is a very strong matchup in towards Dion. It's very difficult for him to do anything. Yeah. The W counters literally everything that Dion wants to do. So you could still see this be a niller show game, and if Dion falls a bit far behind, you don't have that many options for the Nocturne to be able to set up, because right now, as is classic with a Nativz composition, the jungler can only really get going if his lanes are able to get ahead and give him those invades. So what we're likely to see is a top to bot path early from the Nocturne, pressure bot, pressure mid, and that into an immediate invade, and we'll see from that invade how this game's going to go, because if Stefan gets that pressure, he does not give it up whatsoever. But if he doesn't get that pressure, then Fortress Verdant will be impenetrable for the rest of the game.
I think then that by extension, this level 1 in the bot lane also becomes very important. We touched on earlier
Nautilus, last game, right?
Nautilus at level 1, how powerful he is. If you can get lane prio at level 1, then great. But if you don't have that, if Wendell can't find a hook, then that's when Nativz can very easily start to use that mid and bot prior together. If that Nautilus, however, for Verdant, manages to find a hook, manages to chunk out bot lane, getting prio in the bot side of the map may well just be impossible, and it leads Stefan to not have an avenue into the bot side of the enemy jungle, and that pressure then subsiding significantly.
Yeah, and I think it is quite an interesting thought exercise, I guess, to see how these teams match up, because they haven't matched up since day one. It's been a long time. But I think they were like first day of play, if I recall correctly. And so we haven't. So it's been a little while since we've seen these teams come together. They've obviously grown a lot of teams. They are looking like the best teams in the league, and that meant it's quite difficult to see exactly how they match up, because actually a lot of their strengths are in similar positions. There's a slight difference. Okay, Nile's kind of come out to be a bit more of a carry recently. Stefan's a jungler who is really dominant when he gets the opportunity, and maybe that's the slight discrepancies in terms of potential places to look. But elsewhere, you're looking like Gooby versus Den Voxney. That feels like a pretty contentious matchup. You're looking in the mid lane. Vladdy, this incredibly young player who I've got stories about this guy last year who was at 16, traveling hours to get to internet cafes to play his competitive matches in order to really, really grind and make something of this potential esports career. Like, the commitment this guy's put into being the absolute best he can be. And he's going up against Niter, a player who has been pretty monstrous himself, was looking to be another up-and-comer that you were saying to me earlier, this guy's really, really got it. Like, there's some really exciting players who are really, really good. The question really becomes, actually, do you see any serious, like, break points? Because it does feel pretty close in terms of the mechanical skills here.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes... Go on. Sorry, go on.
No, you're good. You got it.
Okay, when it comes to this particular game, so much is on Vladdy on that mid lane as well, because he is actually the only one that has a guaranteed winning matchup in the early phase. Aphelios level 1 is famously not very strong, and Varus early levels is famously very, very strong. So it's not even just this Nautilus there. You're not expecting to get priority on the first wave, short of some weird angle like Toaster was able to find last game, where they can maybe force a minion advantage and get to that level 2 where Aphelios starts to shine. Given that you're losing this, you have to do a lot off of your mid priority if you want to make any kind of plays early, and that also makes Nocturne even better. We don't often talk about jungle matchups in a 1v1 term, but Nocturne is one of the worst case scenarios for a Vi. He can spell shield Vi's initial knockups and just get his entire dueling potential out on it. Once you're in melee range of a Nocturne, unless you have CC and his spell shield's going to guarantee that you don't, it's very, very difficult to contest him. People might cast their minds back to when Scuttle spawned at 215. Nocturne was one of the most powerful champions, because level 2 he was basically unbeatable. And Vi in those early stages, the complete opposite. So I like the matchup on the one-on-one perspective, assuming we're going to be fighting jungle a lot. But that could happen in either jungle, given this setup.
Okay, I appreciate the in-depth look there. Now, before I let Rudude have his own take at this, it is just a quick heads up. There was a match pause, which explains why we've been talking for a little while. Basic player needed to reconnect, and hopefully that should be resolved shortly, and we'll be getting onto the Rift. But it has given us a moment to really dive into this very important matchup. And Rudude, you've heard Veteran's take on where he's kind of got this eye potential on jungle and how that's kind of affected by the level 1s in bot lane and all that kind of cascade of scenarios that is often an impact in how jungle works out. But is there any way you've got your eyes? Because we've just said, look, these players are potentially pretty bloody even when it comes to the skill levels on show.
I want to turn people's attention to the top lane. Because we did a little bit of fact-finding for today.
We did.
And Shikari has got this really bad matchup. Leon into the Cassante is not fun for Leon, as Veteran mentioned. Cassante presses W, your champ becomes useless. So we're expecting some good things out of Nille. Shikari actually has, and I want to say by far, the highest KDA in the league. And he's playing a lot of frontliners. He's played 2 games of Cassante, 2 games of Ornn, Nart, and Poppy, right? Champions that you expect to be in the frontline and expect to die. His KDA is 17.5.
That's pretty nuts, actually.
For a top laner who's playing primarily tanks, that is absolutely
weak
incredible.
side tanks-ish as well. So, there's some element of, you're not getting that much attention on these champions necessarily, especially when you're looking at who your mid and AD carry are. So,
exactly. I just wanted to sing the praises quickly because it is...
Yeah. That's hard to do.
As much as stats can be misleading, I don't think this one is. I think that this one speaks very much to how this guy is just a rock of weak side.
Yeah, I think it is one of those really undervalued traits in a player. It's actually, can you play weak side well and actually give up the minimum and do so while looking good at it? It's actually quite a hard thing to do. I think probably more famously, someone like Impact has gotten praised for that over the years for managing to make that happen. But often top laners do kind of get thrown to the wayside on that front, and I think that is right to call out, especially someone like Shikari, who we were memeing about a little bit last year, being the king of the north, a player who's been in the NLC, succeeding for such a long time, looking to try and come back to winning ways this year around. And a little bit of an update as well from production before I throw over to Veteran to continue a more interesting conversation. We are remaking, there are some player tech issues, and hopefully that will resolve it, but it does mean the podcast, once again, gent, continues. Nice. Veteran, topic of your choice.
Topic of my choice.
Well,
I touched on
League of Legends.
I touched on it's going to be very important to see how Vladdy plays this, right? Vladdy is going to be their way to contest Scuttle. Vladdy is going to be the first guy who will be able to help Nocturne if Nocturne is invaded, if Levi chooses to go for that, which I don't think would be such a good option for her, but this Vladdy priority is going to be a big deal. What you could see, and something that we have seen a lot from Vi's, is on the top pass into bot, they're happy to burn their flash in mid lane to try to burn some kind of summoner. So maybe we could see an early play from Vi in that regard, try to change that mid matchup, because if she does, you might just end up with 3 winning lane states early on, and then it's a very, very clean situation for Vi, and Nativz are thrown very much off their comfort. They love to play with their aggression early, they love to play with Stefan Perma invading. They won't be able to do that anymore. Verdant will have forced them to play their game instead.
We will keep our eyes on the mid jungle. Pretty key between Vladdy and Stefan. It's something myself and Rudude called out when we were thinking about this before the game. And I also, at this point, perhaps, I want to take that step back. And I want to ask this question again, gents. What year do you think Vladdy was born?
I happen to know the answer.
I know, I think I told you this one. So, a Veteran, what year do you think he was born? Don't look at it.
Don't you dare look at last year, so it's like 3 minus. So it's like 2007, something like that?
2005. Yeah, he's
2005. You said he was 16 last year.
So he's 16, 17 now, I believe. So he was 16. Okay. He was 16, turning 17 last year. So he's an incredibly young player. I mean, absolutely fine. That was pretty good work. I mean, the theory was nearly right. But this is an incredibly young player who's kind of burst onto the scene, playing, as we said, at least last year, from quite tricky positions where he was going to travel hours in to find places like an internet cafe with solid internet connection to play competitive positions. And you know, it's now in his second year playing in the NLC, up in Division 1, and once again with Stefan, a slightly more veteran player, and he's got a lot on his shoulders here. And last year he was kind of this superstar in the making kind of person who burst onto the scene. He's got a little bit more experience now behind him. I guess, do you think with the pressure put upon him here and the team he's up against, how high is this guy's ceiling? On a greater sense of this. Of course, Niter, I think most of us agree, this guy's potentially got it in to really push himself in ERLs. But where do you think Vladdy is on that scale?
I'll go first. And I'll at 17, still very fresh, very young. I wouldn't be surprised to see him hit good LFL teams, to hit good, ERL sides, and go further if he gets given. And I think so much is coming down to like player work ethic, and that's, as you mentioned, been shown from his tendency to, or happiness rather, to go to internet cafes miles and miles away, hours and hours away to play these games. He's been styling on people in this region, and I wouldn't want to give like this guy's LEC bound without seeing him in like
exactly. You want to see him tested against some of these better guys, but you can see the potential.
I definitely
think that's
can,
fair.
and it wouldn't surprise me either if he ended up being an insane player in a top tier team. I think. This is interesting.
We've got level 1. That means like our potential praise. I've used potential a lot in the last couple of sentences. The moment for a level
Everything
1.
else is rendered irrelevant while we see if people do anything.
Do something mad. Exactly that. That's what it says. Like, I had to cast around in my brain for another word than potential. I was like, I'm struggling here for a second. For someone who spent a long time studying English at university, you'd think I had a better vocabulary. But alas, at this moment, no. And we are left with nothing too much happening at the level 1. And perhaps then I'll turn this one over to you, Veteran. As someone who's covered a lot of ERL stuff and knows the players very, very well, where are your eyes on some of these players and their potential heights and they could reach?
Voxnay honestly has definite LEC potential, right? According to himself, Nativz, like, how would he know that?
That's LEC material right there.
How would he know
that's
that?
what it takes to be the LEC. I know
Also,
those
what
players.
does
He'd be
sleeping
asleep
like a
during
goblin
that.
mean?
How would he know
It means in
it?
a cave with your fellow goblins, ready to raid
True.
people as bandits.
True. Wendell, really good positioning here on bot lane. Knows if he lands the hook, Gooby can get a really good trade. Then Voxnay, no abilities level 1. Knows that basically, bone plating. Great.
Just trying to make this one happen. It's a lot of damage back, but I can't quite see as my unfortunate feed is frozen. So it takes over briefly. I've
Gotta say, how did you know there was damage back?
I don't know.
We are unfortunately staring at a blank canvas right now.
It was just me, and I just made it up. I'm just not gonna lie.
Nope.
I have no idea what's happening. Oh no. Oh, we're back.
No damage.
There was no
No
damage.
damage. It's fine. It's okay. Phew. I made a call because I felt it was better to keep going, and now you understand with the curtain pulled back, I didn't actually know what was happening. I will say though, that Gooby has been left. I know, don't do that. I'm so ashamed. I'm so embarrassed. That Gooby's the one with control of the wave, though. I don't think that's entirely surprised at the level 1, as we said about how strong the Varus level 1 is. Thank you, Veteran, for pointing that out earlier.
A lot of respect.
If that hook hits.
Yeah.
If the hook hits, it's even worse, right? Like, a big thing here is just Aphelios in general is weak level 1, right? Another huge thing, though, is we were talking about the potential for Vi to do potentially go across mid when transitioning to topside. Aziz played very, very respectfully in mid lane as a result, but because of this, Nocturne doesn't have the angle to go for a cross-map invade.
Go on.
And Wendell just has the freedom to move into jungle, looking to do something on Vladdy. Vladdy not able to play super aggressive early. I do respect that, though.
I was going to flash that. That would have been great. I was really hoping you'd just go for it. The cry of Leroy Jenkins was echoing around my mind. I was really hoping for that, but alas, not going to be. And Wendell perhaps wisely decides against diving level 2 with no wave into the mid lane.
Cascade of factors happening there, though, but a big thing is if you are going Nautilus into mid and you are resetting early, then Nativz end up with a big slow push, and Stefan could possibly transition this. There are not going to be any camps up for another 45 seconds on bot, but the scuttle is secured.
Sorry, all 3 of them pressed B at the exact same frame right there.
That was well synced, I know.
Worth calling out for the very little impact that it has. It looked cool. And
okay, I'm just saying. Well, obviously, I think most people involved in esports are hoping for slight improvements to the esports Olympics or whatever they're called over the years. I'm just saying, synchronized recalls would be a great event.
Well, something actually good about that recall, though, is that because they did the recall on the slow push, then Voxnay was able to get more items over Valus.
That's true.
So here, given that Valus isn't fast pushing this, if they do a contest on bot side and Stefan's able to match it, you're in an advantageous position right now. As then Voxnay, you have better stats with which to take this fight, even though you're on purple-green. That's actually going to be pretty good for a skirmish, so good situation by them. Gooby would like to get this slow push in, match that recall, and then come back out for the Drake timing. That would be a really good bit of synchronicity there, and then try to force the Drake contest with better items.
That will be the thing to keep our eyes on, indeed. And It is a good use of those early backs to get those items, as you were saying, and try and make something of it. Of course, it's still not like Gooby's in a particular spot of bother right now. He's got the Carla stacking that away quite happily. He's got a lot of pots to work with, so does Wendell. So can certainly put the pressure up, even if Denvoxnay's managed to get himself to a position where he can perhaps trade back a little harder than he might otherwise. It is a very early Dragon start, though, by Verdant. It looks like Nativz are not willing to give this one up for free as Stefan, alongside his bot lane, are looking to collapse into the river.
DB has more items here as well.
So does Stefan.
Stronger.
Okay, nothing going to happen in terms of the contest. There was a potential look in, but they just decide against it, and they'll move right back on towards this bot lane. And, you know, we did wonder.
Yeah.
Alas, nothing to be found this time around.
Yep, the big thing there is that Verdant are the ones with the tools to actually start the fight. So they did move in. They moved into an edge where maybe Wendell might think about it. And if Wendell went in, then it probably doesn't go so well. But they ultimately don't have the tools. Nocturne isn't at level 6 yet. Azir doesn't have priority on 6 to do it. They don't have the ability to start the fights themselves. But they did want one. They did want one. And that's normally why they want priorities. Because they don't have the ability to start fights, but they do want to take fights. So they like to force enemies into positions where they have to fight.
Quick note. Go on, Rudid.
This mid lane is not going well right now.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, Vladdy is not enjoying the Nico trades, that's for sure. Niter is really winning that one out right now. I was about to call out as well that Stefan's about to camp off level 6 as well, alongside Taxus, probably not miles off either. So 2 camps, I think, should get Stefan up there, but finding the Skull Crab instead. This will be a big one. That should be level 6 inside of Taxus. I think if he secures it, there we go. Cease and desist available.
And now mid lane actually becomes even harder for Vladdy, because if you ever use Q in lane to try and trade back against Niter, that just frees up Taxa to go in, right? The power of a Azir escape does actually lie a lot in his Q. If you're pressing W and E, it's a very short range dash, think like a Lucian dash of range, versus when he's got Q, it becomes magical journey, like Bardy levels of how far away you can escape. Yes, he's got level 6 now, so... Winter. Yeah, exactly. With level 6, it becomes a little bit easier, but...
Cursed once
Danger
again.
Zone is that.
All right, what are we on? Episode 6 of the NLC Book of Veterans with his... Look at that. Look at those eyebrows. That's some serious eyebrow game. That is the face of a man who knows far too much about the ERLs.
Face of a man who's gone through many pauses on the NLC.
That's also true. I mean, is that the trick to cause a pause to get too close to the camera? Is it your fault, veteran? I
just like to do something unique, you know? I just love to do it.
They're playing in the last game. They're not playing in this one.
True.
I mean, come on.
Unique. Have you noticed they have a mid laner called Unique Corn, right? It should be Unicorn. But he's just called himself Unique Corn to throw us off. We have to go Unique Corn.
That's actually quite annoying.
It's quite like he's in like the anarchy like part of the quadrants, you know.
The problem is I've got that TikTok in my mind. I just love corn. Just got it in my head now. I just need someone to do like a little TikTok video of like the guy making great plays, but just with that soundbite over it.
This is the second existential crisis you've caused for me in the last like 10 minutes, by the way.
I'm glad I have done my due diligence.
I know what you're referring to.
I'm here to cause philosophical quandaries in my analysts.
Guy being born in 2005 caused me a flashback to that Esports News UK party that was in Canary Wharf over Christmas, right? And I was having drinks with people there, and then there was this fully grown adult. This caused
trauma to us here.
There was this fully grown adult who was just absolutely amazed that I knew where I was on 9/11. I was like, okay, great,
okay,
brilliant.
Wow. Big historical moment.
Would it give you a smaller existential crisis if I told you that my birth year begins with a 2 instead of a 1?
Oh wow! Yeah, that's rude, dude. You're clearly the baby among us. I'm gonna have a moment here with you. Then we'll have this moment. Oh, child of the millennium. There we go. That's your title now. I've decided.
Thank you.
You don't get to enjoy the song "The Final Countdown." By the way, that's now barred from you forever.
Is that what that was made for?
Yeah, I think pretty sure. I don't know. I probably not actually. I think it was in the 80s. So I've just decided that's what it was for.
Canonically, it is now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you can't know. You weren't around.
In the canonicity, in the canonicity of Initialize, I am the one who writes the history of esports, and that's because I can, at least here at the moment. Right now, I'm the one on the broadcast, so sucks to be everyone else. I don't actually know where I'm going with this. I've just got to go somewhere with this.
Me being young was the general theme.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, okay, we'll do this one. Reworks. champions being made young again, finding a second youth, Nico rework. Bit annoying. Let's be real. It's a bit powerful. Are you also annoying for being young?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Fundamentally,
no need defense.
yeah, I'm a big believer in just sort of accepting
Being irritating.
your flaws. And
What champions do you play in League of Legends? Do you back that up with the champions you play?
does Aphelios count? Because I feel like Aphelios
like
is
it's a champion.
slowly getting a reputation for being one of the sweaty, annoying.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I feel like it's a pretty sweaty champ. Are the champs that are much sweatier, veteran? Maybe something like
Then
Aphelios.
Aphelios is probably the most knowledge-based ADC
True.
champ, right?
Maybe,
you have
maybe
to
Ezreal
pass.
at points as well if you're playing a
PhD.
good Ezreal.
Nah, there's a PhD
high
thesis in
end,
Aphelios' items.
True.
You know, items,
Alright.
abilities.
Alright,
You know,
alright,
like
in
people
that
give
case,
PowerPoint presentations to professional
young,
teams about
yeah,
this.
that's right. Okay, young Padawan Rudude, child of the millennium, not allowed to enjoy the final countdown. What is the best 4-weapon combo on Aphelios?
Okay, you start with.
I know he's not even in the game, but I've decided we're going to do this. Actually, no, he's in the game.
okay.
So it's a good
We'll
point. We
judge
can see
him.
if we can see it.
I would
forgot the draft.
say you want to do green purple into red blue for your like 4 cycle, and I've excluded white specifically to see veteran's face. So if you're trying to,
I don't like white as part of a full cycle anyway. I'm just wondering how like the green
Okay, so
purple into red works.
exactly. So what's the
okay,
combo
no, so
here?
red comes. So you start with green purple. You use green Q to proc purple Q.
Yeah.
Which then you get blue off the back of it. You get blue off the back of the green gun, and then after.
And you sever him to go for the onslaught with the fire round.
Okay, so you get red. Yeah, so I was.
Yeah, you get red off the
That
blue.
was good.
Okay.
Okay.
And if you end up somehow, some way with crescendum by burning through your ammo and feasibly fast, you've got 7 crescendum. Okay. What do you?
I mean, that
do?
also means you're using the good order. Because, like, when you said green, purple into
what's
red,
the
I was
good
thinking,
order?
what is this? You're
Just to
doing,
hear
like,
what-
green...
no, no,
Is there a veteran-approved gun order that must be
My
followed?
approved gun order, unless you get, like, mega fed on, like, 3 items,
Wait,
is the cycle that goes...
One? Can I do this one? Because I think we're on the same page, and you already know.
It's literally just the standard one, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it's you just cycle
I
red
think it's
first out, and then until you get rid of. You want to be on red white, and you get rid of red first. And basically, the theory is every time you're using a gun, you're using the first weapon that you had to get out of it.
That's true of any rotation you're in. The argument is like which rotation you want, and I like the green, purple. Okay, so actually it's the other way around. So you end up with white
feels like we're
sandwich
doing, like,
in
a really
between
bad
red and
Rainbow
green,
song.
right?
Yeah,
so it
this is
goes
really
red,
hard.
white, green, purple, blue, red, and then white again. Right? I prefer that order. That's my preferred one. And the one that some people do that triggers me really early on is they do a variant where they have green into blue instead, and then you end up with this weird purple-red rotation as a result, which I think is useless. You never get red-blue, which I think is the most damage you can get. But I like it if you can basically one-shot with green Q with blue secondary and R. But that is not into play until like 3 items. So I like switching to it later on, but otherwise I want to maintain this set of rotations where I end up with red, blue into red, white into white, green.
We're good. We touched on Aphelios guns.
Okay, we're there.
We did
we're
it.
Out. But that was
You asked!
I did,
I did ask.
and I regret
I'm
it.
a nerd! You asked me, okay?
we went real deep there, guys. Fortunately, we had the time to, and as you can see, there was a couple issues with connectivity, but fortunately that does seem to have been resolved. We continue the game as is, but we have just heard, as you can see, why people have needed to do PowerPoint presentations to teams to talk about weapon rotations, because it's quite complicated, guys.
That was Upset, by the way. He tweeted about it when he did a
Seriously,
presentation to
That's
Origin
fabulous.
about Aphelios, because they had to do presentations every week, and he decided, okay, I'll actually explain what this champ does.
Fantastic. Okay, that's just... I do enjoy that. Stefan, taking the opportunity here to clean out the waves and push his way to the level 7 mark, will have the opportunity to press the paranoia button at some point and play the game out.
4v5?
They are a little bit at the minute. Vladdy is still stuck in base, and it does seem to be the one who was struggling with those connectivity issues, and that is a bit of a problem.
So, Nativz ran out of pause time, so they've had to
boy.
resume. Now,
Oh no!
it's
That
not
is
a
really
great
frustrating.
look.
That's
Well,
pretty
The
frustrating.
EU Masters Poland curse has met Vladdy, who's Greek, by the way, absolutely nothing to do with this.
This is
but-
a bit of a shame, really.
Yeah, so this happened in EMEA. It looks like Nilla's being nice to Shikari here. This happened in the EMEA very, very recently. Basically, in the last round, the Polish team was very, very close to defeating Unicorns of Love, who'd end up being the finalists, they ran out of pause time. They straight up ran out of pause time, lost AD carry when they'd already broken over the base, and they ended up losing the game 4v5. It was pretty much a guaranteed win for them. One of the most controversial decisions. The NLC, you know, we're now experiencing this right here. We're experiencing this right here.
But you know, we've got to work with what the game is in front of us, and it does mean that Nativz are in a very difficult position. Vladdy, the Azir, kind of already down and out as far as the CS is not in the game right now. We are seeing Nita, who just got first turret, all the plates, is on a Nico, which is a very strong champion, and it puts Verdant in a very dangerous position with the man advantage, now stacking their second dragon, and that is an unfortunate place for a game that we're hoping was going to be significantly more competitive, but it does seem now it's like Verdant are in position to really just snowball this game with the advantages they're getting in this one so far.
I accuse Rudude.
What did I do? What are you accusing me
You
of?
voted for Verdant, and then this happened.
Curse them? How dare you?
I was going to say,
Verdant from this
the
round,
joke's on
okay.
everyone that voted for Nativz in the predictions today.
Yeah, I know, because I voted for Nativz in the predictions.
I think we may have to turn our eyes to a massacre in the bot lane, gents, because bot lane's getting dove and there's no one here to save you now. Pop Blossom comes in and Pop goes the Weasel. It's a complete disaster.
Ruby dies.
Wait,
No.
does not die.
What happened
He's
to that
just out of
turret?
range.
Okay, that looked in range to me. Clearly, I'm too young to know what turret ranges are. Stefan, do it.
no.
Do it, Stefan.
Oh, Stefan. He going? It's going to be into a
He got the
4v1.
W out. Nah,
Oh.
all combos up. You can see on the HP bars, though, if the Azir was alive and if the Azir had teleport, I mean, he is alive, he does have teleport, he was connected into the game, that is not possible for them. They at least lose 2 people on it. Maybe the play doesn't happen at all. The game dramatically changes if the Azir is in. But Rudude, desperate to catch up towards Witter in the predictions, has DDoS'd Vladdy Sumi to guarantee his eventual victory today. Let's see what happens in the Nord Unique game. Right?
I
Because
knew it
you will
would
this
be hearing
happens
from
for
my
I
Nord.
knew it would happen eventually. The rage
This
that is
happens.
veteran who won. Did you win the first splits predictions from what I remember?
Yeah, of course. I've
who's
literally
any-
never lost a prediction race.
So it's looking like actually this split you might actually lose. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Putting that out there.
Yesterday, so
are your
yesterday,
skills
Unique.
weakening?
Yesterday, Unique subbed in after we had predictions done, so I ended up having to lose on that. And today, this has happened. All right, I'm not saying I'm
Okay,
cursed. I'm
so-
saying Rudude is DDoSing
I'm just,
people.
I'm just like,
Because it was
all
connection
I'm saying
issues.
is,
It was
I've got-
connection issues
I'm-
yesterday.
I'm just saying, I've got some dinner to come, and clearly I've found the seasoning I need. Thank you, veteran, for the additional salt for my kitchen. It's great. Quick note as well, of course, it is a really frustrating situation, I'm
Yeah.
sure, for all involved. We've also
Especially
got to have
me.
a keep an eye on as well that we are looking at the static Shiv build from the Varus, which is, of course, one of those things where I recently did a quiz on which champions could, in fact, build static Shiv and do ridiculously well. And I feel like Varus is one of them, especially with his ability to abuse and use some of those AP values. You could probably make solid use of that one as in the top side. Attempted little gank is going to be countered by the teleport and the man advantage once again, leaving Verdant and with a safe solo laner and Nativz without that much recourse. It is a difficult situation they find themselves in.
Oh, this is hard as well.
Okay, I was about to leave that out as a potential response
Yeah.
for my analyst, and instead we got ourselves a fight. The bot lane's core, and they are massacred once more. 0-2 apiece for Denvoxney and Twist, and Flash, cease and desist, and 5-0. The kills are exactly where you want them. They're in the Nico, they're on the Varus.
This is going to...
My analysis is that sucks.
I mean, what else? I mean, unfortunately, that is the position we're in, though, because analysis in this position does fall away a little bit because it is such a bind, and Nativz find themselves in, at least in a competitive scenario, a very challenging position to even hope to come back from. We've seen it in solo queue, a 4v5 victory in a competitive scenario against a team the caliber of Verdant, at least within the confines of the NLC. This should be a shutout for Verdant. I mean, I guess we do some theory crafting. We do put the tinfoil hats on. How on earth do Nativz even consider triaging a situation like this, Rudude?
I think that the tinfoil hats are pointless. I'm going to be completely honest with
you.
you. I appreciate the journey that we have to try and go down, but I do think
Nativz computer and you hope.
Yeah, that's like it is actually tinfoil hats where you start, asking if I can potentially, DDoS the other team as well to make it even. But it's a 4v5 is a 4v5, and when you're playing with such high levels, right? It's not even like these are a top versus bottom side of the table that you might be able to take it. Every advantage needed to be taken care of by both of these two teams when you're coming into this, and you've just got one literal gaping hole in the mid lane. It just doesn't warrant trying to figure out what's gonna happen.
Well, you default to bush baits like this, and you hope and pray because you desperately need something. They're going to have to force out of that one. They just can't be there. Shikari's forced away from the top side. Has to leave that one alone. Herald number 2 is spawned, and with Dragon Soul point, let me go correctly identify what dragon it will be in about 10 seconds. Verdant on course to making this one a by-the-numbers victory from a unfortunately commanding position. And it doesn't really tell us much about these teams, which is a frustration because, again, they hadn't played since day one. Now we're going to get a game where, unfortunately, we're not really getting any more info about how these teams are going to match up, and it really leaves us to the halcyon days of playoffs in a few weeks' time where we might finally get a matchup that is even. This one doesn't really tell us all that much, and again, those stats lines are going to lie to us.
I mean, a big thing here, right, is that the only real route Nativz had towards winning this was through midsection having some level of priority early. That was the only one that they were really relying on. As is, Verdant have a fortress composition that has full advantages in lanes, and they have the ability to transfer that pressure wherever they want. What you want to do is make these kinds of picks, these kind of fanatic death brush picks, where you can cheat a numbers advantage in certain parts of the map. Because if Verdant are going to play a wide map state like this, then suddenly your Nocturne has a lot of value, but only if he has follow-up from the other members of his team, and they can't necessarily show in lane, because that just tells Verdant where they have to go to trade up. So you're seeing them try to do these death brush tactics, and try to see if they can maybe catch them out getting vision off of the priorities that they have.
All right. Guys, I've got it. I found the way back in. You've got an additional lane of farm for Nocturne and the Aphelios to farm. They power the Aphelios with the Lulu behind him, and you just have the Ornn stand in front of him with the Lulu there as well, and you power farm to 3 items and 2 on the Nocturne, and you just Aphelios diff. You get that 4-weapon combo, and it's beautiful. That's how they do it. It's going to happen. I'm telling you now. It's Denvox they diff.
He
has the power of 2 lanes of farm.
And he's still down in CS.
I'd stop. Don't talk about it. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. He's not going to die here in the mid lane in the 4v1. It's not going to happen.
I like the look from Nita, though. This is one of the... Oh, okay, they're fighting. Let's go.
Let's go. Okay, the heal comes out. This might be the moment. Ingo's down. Wow. Gets 1. That's an important shove. And now how much more can they get done? Have Verdant been a little bit or too over-eager? Out goes the Cassante down, and Denvoxney's just dead to rights. He's all down.
Denvoxney got thoroughly AD carried right there. He has cleanse, but the beauty of Cassante Vi is that none of the things that you get hit by are actually cleansable. I think he had, the death recap, where it's how long you were CC'd for and how long you were taking damage. Those two are probably the same.
It's Aphelios' 6th and secret weapon, the grey one. Turns your screen into monochrome, and unfortunately, Denvoxney is experiencing a little bit too much time with that weapon this game. Again, we're in a situation where that is kind of an unfortunate situation of where the game is at. But Verdant, up 10,000 goal, at soul point, up the man, and in a significant position as well. Nativz have got Hail Marys and nothing left to work with.
It was a good Hail Mary, in fairness. The fact that they killed Gooby... It genuinely
was. They got something.
Yeah. The fact they killed Gooby surprised me in its onset. So you do get to see the power of the composition that they drafted in, like the essence of how well the two topside champions pair with each other, right? Stefan and Shikari, if they're layering Call the Forge God with the Nocturne ulti, they can kill carries, and you are seeing the difference here of, well, maybe not quite seeing the difference, but if a Lulu was maybe in the back pocket of Gooby there, he might have looked a little bit better, and the option there is that Denvoxney would then live in a situation like that. Unfortunately, that just wasn't the case because they're so far behind, and gold is everywhere on Verdant.
Yeah, they have gold to spare this game. They are in, as kind of already stated, a position where it would be almost impossible for them to lose, and maybe that'll be a caster curse enough to make it a little bit more interesting. And unfortunately for the viewers, unfortunately for Nativz and their fans, this is a pretty underwhelming game state and position to be from. It's not what we want. It's not what the players want. But of course, Verdant, they're not necessarily. They're in a position where they'll take this, right? They'll take that inverted commas free win from the situation they're in. But it does mean competitively, there's not a lot to write home about from this one. I'm sure for Nativz they're gonna be frustrated, but I'm not really sure. There's nothing. You kind of just have to shrug and deal with it and just have to be frustrated and move on from that. I mean, I guess. Maybe we have to take this bigger picture as the Baron. Yeah, they've got to try, but do they even try? You can see the Baron's gone down in seconds flat.
Oh, I mean contest like the game. As in we could be casting this again, at some point.
We'll see where that ends up, of course. As it stands, this is the game as it will be. The result will stand. If anything changes, we'll let you know, or I'm sure the Twitter account will, so do keep your eyes on that one. But as it stands, it's Verdant, who with that man advantage, with the 20-minute Baron, are barreling down this top lane to cement a victory that was written from the unfortunate position this game state finds itself in.
Shikari is still ahead in the CS and hasn't died yet.
He's
so
not died. Exactly. There it is.
He's
Got
securing.
an upgrade. He's got ornaments. Yeah. They're worth a lot of gold.
True. He is securing his KDA that we were seeking earlier.
Has he got the third
Small
album?
Small victories.
Has he got the third album? Who's going to be voicing Evelyn this time? I need to know.
What is the third album
of KDA?
Oh,
see, that was where I was going with this one, Rooted. I made a pun. It's like a whole thing you kind of do sometimes when you're on cast,
Oh, that's really saddening that I didn't get that. Honestly, I'm like,
it's probably a sign of the times in this game that fell that flat. Let's be real.
Let me tell you what should have been done here, by the way. Let me give you some real theory crafting,
okay,
alright? What should have happened here, alright, is when you know that your Azir's not coming back and he's not rushing to the internet cafe to play, what we got to do here is we got to get static Shiv on this Aphelios into Nash's Tooth into Ludens. Why? Because big thing people don't know, that all of Aphelios' abilities have 100% AP scaling.
Oh, seriously? That's pretty good.
Yes. You actually do mental damage with AP Aphelios so long as you're good at the gun combos. So that should have been played here.
Exodia ult. Okay.
Yep.
Call of the Forge
Immediately pivot. Like, that ult would have killed everyone,
That's it. That would have been the difference right there. That would have changed everything.
The play. And then you can go green-blue variant, by the way. You can go green-blue variant, I don't care. Because even if you just have, like, red-purple, you one-shot everyone. Yeah, like, go for it. That should have been the play. Then they had Nocturne, AD Assassin, and the Aphelios AP Mage.
For the sake of solo queue and people's LP, I do have to put a disclaimer that veterans...
No, do it.
Mad cooking skills are not endorsed by the rest of the NLC.
You'll be amazed the damage you'll do. Do it. Ignore this. Ignore this anti-AP Aphelios propaganda. Ignore him. You can't silence the truth. AP Aphelios is the future. You can't silence the truth.
Cut him off before he causes more sadness. Pop Blossom comes on through, the Paranoid comes on down, but the lights have been out for a long time, unfortunately, in this game.
AP Aphelios
Verdant will take the 5v4 win. Some value comes from a really frustrating position. Shikari finally falls a singular